Okay, so we are recording now, Sharon. I will turn it over to you, and just for your information, I have the opening script in front of you in case you need it.
Thank you. So do I. I am calling to order the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission public hearing to order at 4:20 p.m. on March 12, 2026. Commissioners present are Kirsten Hoffman, Helen Pillsbury, Ed Bradenberg, and Sharon Cayley. Today, the commissioners will be holding a public hearing to review applications. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing. We will begin with application number AP 260599. That's 77 Englewood Avenue.
Sorry, Sharon, we start with the meeting minutes. I apologize.
I'm sorry, I thought we were doing the meeting minutes at the end.
We do,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me correct it then. We will begin then with meeting minutes from the commission meeting of,
January 8th.
yeah, I'm sorry, I had it on the wrong side. January 8. Has commissioners any comments or alterations you wish to make?
I'm sorry to delay, but I do have a question about it, Nick.
Sure, go for it.
The minutes did not mention, my recollection is that we're having a subcommittee and we're meeting with the applicant at the beginning of May.
Yes.
And the minutes didn't mention that, so I just want to make sure that is what the procedure is going to be.
Yes, that is actually, thank you. I will make that slight revision on the provisos of the minutes. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you.
That is noted, and I will make that revision. And if you're okay, you can make the recommendation to approve with that provisos.
Okay, I'm prepared to make a commission to approve with the proviso of a subcommission or subcommittee rather. Commissioners?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the motion is carried. The minutes are accepted
Perfect.
for January 8. We will now get back to today's agenda, and I will repeat AP 260599. That's 77 Englewood. The presenter is ready.
Sharon, I think if it's okay, I'd like to read my staff comments and then let you, the presenter, present the information.
Sorry, yes, okay.
Okay. Just to read my staff comments and staff recommendations, structure is a two-story yellow brick Chateauette style mansion, historically known as the Brackley Shaw House. It's currently used and occupied by the Congregation Chai Odom Synagogue. Staff recommends that the application is approved with proviso / denied. Considering the gutter proposal is a reversible condition, staff is recommending that the gutters are approved with the provisos that the gutters and downspouts are painted to match the existing. The downspout should be installed in the corner of the structure at the opposite side of the proposal near a non-historic addition. This is not possible. The downspout should be installed where the curve of the brick meets the flat elements and follow the facade down to join with the gutters on the edge of the porch roof. Staff recommends that the chimneys are restored rather than removed or reduced in size. The chimneys are a critical design to the architecture and design of the structure and should be repaired, not replaced. Let's see here. And that's it. That's all I have for comments. And then will the applicant please raise their hand if they'd like to speak on behalf of this application? Anybody here for 77 Englewood? You can raise your hand in the application. There's a small button at the bottom of your screen, and we will unmute you. I'm assuming it's going to be David. There he is. Okay. Hi, David.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Is there anybody
Okay.
else that you'd like to present with you?
So, yes, there should be the contractor on here, Tiago. Maybe Tiago could raise his hand if you could explain to him how he could raise his hand. I'm not sure if he has
Yep.
that much technical.
If you'd like to raise your hand in the application, you can either click the raise your hand button. If you're calling in, you can press *6 and we can unmute your phone.
Nick, have you found Tiago?
I don't see anybody in the Zoom with the name Tiago. Do you know what their
Tiago is from Farina Roof.
okay?
If we just explain to him how to raise his hand, basically on the bottom of your screen, you can touch more maybe, and then
Yeah.
you'll see an option for raising your hand.
Yep.
I spoke to him a week ago and I confirmed with him several hours ago that he'd be on. So
Let's see if I have any emails.
Is there, it looks like as though there's somebody physically waving at the camera named Zoom user.
Zoom user. Okay, let's see. Oh, I think that's it. Tiago, is that you? Tiago? We don't hear you.
No.
okay, so I'll start to speak briefly if I may, and then we'll try to get Tiago on again, and he can describe the scope of the work, which I may be able to describe a little bit, but he could describe that better. So Nick, you had mentioned you have the pictures that I sent you, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. So you can see exactly what's being done over here. So we have a beautiful synagogue that's over here with the custodians of this beautiful historic district, and we appreciate everybody on the commission keeping the neighborhood. I grew up just 10 blocks away from here, so I've lived here my whole life, and it is a beautiful building. One thing I could point out, we knew that we had some problems with 3 chimneys. Now, there's a chimney on the side of the driveway that's very tall. That poses a very major danger. It's extraordinarily tall. We're looking to cut down part of it. You can see with the, what color line is that, Nick? I can't see on my screen, but it's a red line that it's going to be cut down to, or maybe what color line is that?
Looks like yellow.
A yellow line. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm on my phone. So we're cutting it down just a short bit. Now, I'll address the one that really needs to be cut down is the one on the side of the driveway. And even if they fix that and they rebuilt that up, it still is a danger, and it has something that's holding it up, which is this metal thing. And, you know, this is a very old building. And, you know, what we want to do, and, you know, the purpose of these statutes and these laws, as I've read them a little bit, is to preserve the beauty of the building. Now, if you can only see something from the sky, that doesn't fit into the purview of this committee, nor of this law. So the other 2 chimneys are set back very much, and you can't see the entirety of them from the street. We didn't even know how bad it was until we got a zoom up there. Now, I assume this committee is not here to you know, preserve something that you can only see by Zoom. You want to preserve something you can see by the street. Now, the lower part of this can actually, strangely enough, be seen. And what the topography of this neighborhood is that the building is set up a little bit high, and the whole land of the building is high, and then it slopes in a couple of spots. So you can't see up that high no matter where you stand. Now there's a couple of little angles that you can see a little bit of it. And the 2 smaller chimneys, reducing them by the minor amount that we're reducing them is not that much. And the cost prohibitiveness of it is it's going to cost way more to remove them entirely. And if the only purpose in rebuilding them it is to preserve what it will look like by Zoom, that's not in the purview of this committee. So our proposal is to take those down just right exactly where they're marked. And our proposal is the tall chimney to take down the small amount over there. And that's going to achieve several things. It's going to achieve structural integrity and safety. And it's not going to compromise the look of the building because you're still going to have an extraordinarily tall chimney. Now, the synagogue is not a wealthy synagogue, believe it or not. It's just not. And we take a lot of pride in you know, this beautiful historic building. We've done a lot of things to kind of keep it up, but this is kind of out of our price range. And what we would do is ask the committee to understand, you know, the balances. It's a very unsafe situation. We understand the committee couldn't, you know, schedule this right away. And but now what we need to do, the cost to bring it down, you know, is going to be so much. And I understand that you know, that may not be in a sense a factor here. But what we want to do is to keep safety and to keep something sensible, right? The historic look of the building will be very much preserved, will not be interfered with whatsoever. On lowering the, you know, very high chimney slightly, and on lowering the other chimneys a little bit, which one of them can't be seen from the street, and the other one, you know, can hardly be seen by the street. So I don't know if anybody has seen that, but if you go and see it, you'll see exactly what I mean. Does anybody have any questions?
Was that it, David? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Except I'd like to see if we can get Tiago to speak, and if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly glad to address them. But you know, I thank everybody from the committee. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Tiago, just one last chance if you're here, if you're able to unmute yourself or raise your hand and I can unmute you for you. Yeah, I'm not seeing them. So commissioners, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you need me to bring anything up on Google Street View, I'm also happy to do that. In fact, let me just bring that up right now. It might be a better visual so you can understand the context of the property in relation to the district.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing on the map here, you have Englewood Avenue. You also have Strathmore Road directly behind it, of which you can see all three chimneys. So 1, 2.
I was going to say I pulled it up from Strathmore, and from the back, if you look at it street view, pretty much the only defining features are the chimneys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If I can interject, David, when you say lower them slightly, can you give me inches, exact measurements?
So that's what I was hoping the contractor would be able to address. You can see it on the picture because you see what they did is they took a drone picture of it, and then what they did is they made a yellow line right where it's going to be lowered to, so you can see exactly that there's three drone pictures that show the amount that it's being lowered.
So Sharon, one is about right here. So it seems like it's about 8 or 10 courses of brick, which is a significant amount, especially given the fact that there's some decorative detailed brick on the top portions. And with this chimney, they're taking off the entirety of the decorative crown of that specific chimney.
Chair, may I comment?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I mean, I think one issue here is that the crown, that the chimney has a unique specific profile, and the crown is one of the unique features of the profile of that chimney. And this is, you know, regarding guideline 11.2, 2 through 3A, original or later masonry materials, including chimneys, shall be retained. So one thing I'm interested in pursuing is that there are notes in the staff comments about the possibility of qualifying for Community Preservation Act funds, because if there were a means of you know, procuring funding to help the synagogue with this project, that would be an ideal solution.
Yes, so thank you. Nick had mentioned that, and he was very gracious. And to the extent that the committee feels they could recommend that we certainly greatly appreciate that. The issue is that they make decisions 4 times a year, and the just 1 second. I'm sorry. Sorry, somebody was walking through here. I apologize. Right, the committee makes a decision on those historic funds 4 times a year, and the issue is you can see from the pictures the looseness of these bricks. I mean, this is not a small issue. So, yep, I would say that should be a factor. I can hear if you're going to determine that that's not a factor, but I think we have to realize that this is real life. And there still is going to be 3 chimneys, and there's a lot of beautiful. This is a very beautiful building, and we've tried to do our best to preserve it over the years. But it's a beautiful building. There's a lot of beautiful features here. It still will have 3 chimneys. Yeah.
So if we go back to the pictures, it looks as though the first chimney will actually be lower than the peak of the roof. Is that correct? It looked as though the yellow line was actually below the, I think there was another one further back. That one, it looks as though it might be flush. But one of those, it looks as though, yeah, that one, it looks as though the chimney would actually be lower than the top of the roof whenever it's done. Is that
So,
correct?
so right now it looks like it's lower than the peak of the left roof over there on that chimney. So that's what I meant by there's very little angles that you can see much of the chimney, and you don't see the top of the chimney, believe it or not, from the street. And on that chimney, you could see the lower part of the chimney, which would still be seen. So obviously, they can't take it down lower than the roof line, because then you'd have to cut the roof, which they're not intending to do. So since the roof is a very interesting roof, and it's sloping everywhere, and so it's going to have to be higher than whatever roof line it's kind of hitting. I'm not sure if I'm being clear, because in other words, the brick can't, if you'd cut the roof, you'd have to make a new roof. They're not making any new roof. They're just going to keep it, either flush with or above the roof, wherever it is. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. It looks as though in the top picture, and I don't know if I'm seeing it the right way, but it looks as though a little bit has already been removed before the picture was taken, and then where that yellow line looks to me at least significantly lower than that peak on the left, where I'm guessing that there was some sort of cap on top of there, so it stuck up a little bit. So that
So
particular chimney, it almost looks as though the end result would be almost to remove it as far as the silhouette of the house. It would be, for all intents and purposes, sort of gone after removing that much of it.
right. So the bricks that have fallen are the dangers that I'm referring to, and you can see I don't know what's loose and what's not loose. I've been told that the springtime is the time that things are most dangerous, because with the thawing and freezing and expanding and contracting is when things are most likely to be unstable and fall. So a number of bricks have fallen over the years, as you can see, because there's missing bricks. And it's also not plumb. Plumb is straight, right? So it's not plumb.
Yes.
But you're still going to be able to see the chimney, especially as the roof slopes. And that's the part of the chimney that you see when you're walking around. We did not know how bad the damage was until we got the drone picture, because no matter how we walked around, we couldn't see those really decaying areas until we got the drone picture. So that's what I mean, that, obviously what's in the purview of this committee is what can be seen, not what can only be seen by a drone. So you're still going to have, everywhere where the slope is over there, you're still going to see chimney. So you're still going to have this nice contrast between the brick of the chimney and this 100-year-old slate, which is beautiful green slate.
Yeah. If I can intrude myself here, is this a functioning chimney, David?
No, none of the three chimneys are functioning. That has been confirmed. Yeah, I'm an attorney by profession. Don't
Okay.
hold that against me. Yeah, but I'm not a contractor. But I did look into that, and none of the three chimneys. They were at one stage, and then over the years, they had different boilers or whatever kind of a thing. So yeah, none of them are functional.
One other question, and then I'll ask the other commissioners. Has the roofer, when you hear from him, offered to give you any kind of a cosmetic restoration estimate for the chimneys? And I say this because I've seen other chimneys with the crown on them, and it's really quite distinctive, even if you can't see it from every aspect of the street level.
Yeah, I mean, he did. It's way more expensive. Let's say it's going to add somewhere between 35, approximately, give or take, percent more. And even the numbers that we had were very expensive. So
And that's for all of the chimneys?
for all of the chimneys to take them and rebuild them, that's what it's going to cost. And what we're most nervous about is that tall chimney on the side, because it looks out of whack, and I don't know that I can, that I wish I had the contractor to be able to opine on this, because it just looks somewhat unstable, and he's gonna, if he was gonna take it down and just stabilize it, and it has this metal rod that's kind of holding it up, and it's just, I don't know, maybe because it's a place of worship, it's just a miracle that it's standing. But that is, the most important one that I think it would pose the biggest danger. And you're going to see still a massive chimney with a lot of detail as you go down that chimney, since it's such a tall chimney. So, on that chimney in particular, I would just argue that there's no reason to say that he can't take it down, a little bit over there, and you can see how much is being taken down. On the other two, I'd argue the same thing, because those are much less visible than this chimney. And even though this very tall chimney is visible, the differential between it being, way tall and it being a little bit tall is not going to say, oh, this isn't as beautiful of a building or something like that. It's still going to, kind of capture the historic significance of the building, which is a beautiful building. It really is. Yeah.
It is a beautiful building. I would like to ask the observations from Helen and Kirsten.
I have a question in terms of, it's because that crown is such a prominent feature. And this seemed like the most prominent of the chimneys. If it were reduced in height, is it possible to nonetheless replicate the profile so that you have that crown at the top? It's just, and instead of it just coming to being a blunt edged, ending of the chimney, to replicate the crown, but just
Yeah,
that the chimney is
that's
shorter.
that's a very insightful question. If the contractor were here, we could ask him. I don't. I hear the question. I think it's beautiful. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
And my question to you, Nick, do you know if the Community Preservation Act or any other source has any means for, like, applying for emergency funds as the applicant?
To my knowledge, no. I will say that we have a very narrow scope of purview, which is related to architectural integrity only, in accordance to how our guidelines apply to the proposed changes. So the type of costs or anything are not applicable during this type of conversation. But
Okay.
I don't think there are emergency type funds. There is the ability to have them, if a chimney, if the Inspectional Services Department ordered the chimney to be removed because of a safety concern, there is the ability to apply for the funds and have them rebuilt. So that's something there. But yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. Kirsten, can you contribute?
I can, yeah. I think my opinion is the same as Helen's. It would be great if it was possible to understand, like, if there was a a feasible cost in having the cap, even with a lower chimney. And then Nick, what's the schedule for community preservation funds? Do you know? When do they come up?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the next one is coming up in, I want to say May, but I'm not sure exactly what the deadline is.
Mm.
Let me just take a look. Um, let's see. Yeah.
Okay, while you're looking for that, Nick, can I suggest that we move on to, there's a question about downspouts and
I have
roof
one
repair.
more. I have one more chimney question.
Sorry, Ed.
Design-wise.
Okay, go
No,
ahead.
no, no. I just sort of kind of flying around on Google Street View. I was sort of trying to figure out the very tall chimney. And if you look at it sort of dead on, Nick, do you know if the design intention was to sort of balance out? You can kind of see if you even if you go a little bit further down the street a little bit, it looks as though it is was it meant to sort of balance out the sort of asymmetrical shape of the house. If you continue the direction you were going and you look at it kind of straight on, you can
This
kind of
way?
see what I mean, where you could almost draw a straight line from the chimney across, yeah, maybe or even a little bit to the left. You can kind of see like how it was do you think that the intent was to originally sort of balance out the kind of asymmetry of the design? Or do you think it was just an arbitrary decision, like as far as the height goes?
I think the height is related to the functionality of the chimney so that the smoke, when the chimney's in use, doesn't end up around the street and area.
Yeah,
So that,
yeah.
I think the balance and the proportions are something that classical architects always consider. So I would imagine that was part of the design conversation. So yes.
So almost the tail wagging the dog, where they made the right hand side a little bit higher to balance out the height of the chimney for practical purposes.
Yeah, I think that that could be part of the design choice.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gotcha.
yeah. All right. Good point, Ed.
And by the way, the next applications must be filed for the CPA on April 1st.
April 1st. Oh, all right. That's,
So that's
Couple of
potentially interesting timing, right? If maybe it was possible to find out if a cap was possible on a lower chimney. And also, Nick, is there anybody that can assist with those applications on
Yeah,
staff?
yeah. I introduced David
Yeah.
to the representative for the preservation function of the CPA. So there, and if they haven't got in touch already, I can poke them and see if they can have a discussion. Yeah.
And that person could help with the actual application, or are we gonna have to pay? We price some grant writers like $175 an hour or something.
yeah.
They could facilitate, they could walk you through how to apply and what the process looks like. Um, so yes, I would imagine they'd be able to give you information about all of that.
Then
Mhm.
it's also not it's not a particularly complex application, and you'll have all the plan in process most likely.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. The other, if it's appropriate now to move on to the other part of the application, the downspout, there was a question about painting and color and the connection to the roof repair?
Excuse me.
Or is this something that the roofer was going to tell us?
No, so I understand what Nick is saying. I assume that's what the roofer was intending, and if that's what the committee is recommending, we're glad to do that. We want it to, look the same. If Nick just gives that to me in writing, I can present that to the contractor and make sure that that's in fact done. Yeah, so that's not a problem. We want to match what's there now. Yeah, and he's putting in a downspout where there wasn't one, which I don't know if that was clear from his plans. So in the front of the building, there's going to be a downspout coming down, because the capacity of the rain, just over the years, over a long period of time, was causing disintegration of bricks and some disintegration inside also. And so what he recommended to kind of solve that problem, which has been maybe a problem in perpetuity since since the first year of the building, or after 10 years of the building, whatever it is, but it's been going on for years and years at the synagogue. And so he recommended that a new downspout is needed there in the front. So that's yeah.
May I ask a question, Nick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that in this new downspout, is that where in the staff comments you refer to that the downspout should be installed in the corner of the structure at the opposite side of the proposal near the non-historic addition? Is that referring to the new segment of downspout?
Let me bring it up.
Just so we're clear where this would be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not
So,
possible the downspout should be installed where the curve of the brick meets the flat elements and follow
yes.
the facade down the joint
Yes.
with the gutter to the edge of the porch. Could you just show us where you're saying that should be?
Absolutely.
Recommending
Yeah.
that should be, say.
Yes. So the current proposal is to take the gutter to go from here and down to here to connect with the gutter that it's on the porch. If it's possible, it would be preferred, considering this is the main facade of the structure, and you can see here there's a small non-historic addition. If we could, and I'll circle around the side so that you're able to see this. If the downspout could be installed, and you can't see, it's kind of difficult here, but on the other side of this addition, because it's the same gutter that you'd be connecting to, only it would come down along the edge here. Let me see if there's got this tree in the way, so it's a little challenging. But essentially, to move the proposed gutter away from the front of the facade, this is probably the best area to see. So it would be right here, and it would kind of tuck into this corner right here. And that way you got the additional ability to drain additional water off of the roof due to increased capacities for related to climate change. And you would obscure that additional gutter tucked into this little section here, and then you would still have the main portion of the facade, but you wouldn't have that gutter coming down on this side. If that's not possible, I think it would also be acceptable, based on my assessment, to put it on this little section here. However, just tuck it as close to the corner as possible to make sure that you're not obscuring any architectural detail.
Okay, yeah.
So that's sorry.
Say that one more time.
I was just gonna say that's an issue that Tiago, that the contractor might be able to advise on, that we might have to just go with provisos to
Sure, I think that's acceptable.
Right. So if I may, Nick, I wish the contractor were here to address that, but let's say, for example, you have that cone, and let's call it the right side of the cone and the left side of the cone. So you want to be on the right side of the cone, in between that and that little jut out over there.
Yes, sir.
So the problem with that is if you follow that down one level down, there's a porch over there. It's not the ground. And so there's no place for it to drain off to the ground over there. That's gonna go right over there, and that's where there is some disintegration all around this cone over here because of water coming down. And I think he's going to need to keep it on the left side of that, let's call it the cone, for lack of a better, thing, and tuck it in as you suggested on the left side, not on the right side, because that whole thing is a patio. I don't know if you call it a patio, but it's a porch. And so, yeah, there's a little bit, yeah, and I don't think the porch slopes properly too. So,
Let me interject here. I see there's an additional downspout to the left of the bay, I'm sorry, to the right of the bay window. If we approve one more downspout in the original location, that's really going to clutter the overall appearance unless it can be camouflaged in some way.
yeah. So maybe the camouflage is number one, tucked in, and number two, that it's a color similar to the brick color. I don't have too much creativity in this. I mean, I'm open to suggestions from you or the contractor, but
Nick,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm wondering, Nick, would it be appropriate, possible and appropriate, for staff, meaning you, to meet with the applicant and the contractor on site and like actually seeing the, in real, right, actually being able to be there and see all of these nooks and crannies to determine an appropriate location?
You could do that, yeah. It would be great if the contractor
It
was
seems
here.
difficult to decide this, especially without the contractor here.
Well, I mean, the notice went out 10 days ago, so I don't know what to say to that. I feel like, we have some information to make a decision. If you want to make the recommendation to install it on the right side with the provisos that the contractor can report back to me to determine whether or not that's feasible, I think
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
But we sent out a notice 10 days prior, so necessary
Gotcha.
parties should be here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he was here at the start of this. We started at 22 past, and he may have had to go. So if you want to reconvene a meeting, but I can certainly find that out, but we don't want to, fault him. We don't know what his story was, so.
No, but we are at a disadvantage not having his expertise. And I realize it puts you, David, in an uncomfortable position making a presentation. So if that's the case, I feel we've discussed both issues thoroughly. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Right. Yep.
It is time for public comments, if I may.
Sharon, may I say just one thing? So
Sure.
in terms of the downspout on the right, the problem is how does that water get to the ground? Because then you're going to have to take the downspout and put it across somewhere where it's not going to look so pretty. And you don't want it, coming into the building and causing disintegration of more of the brick or brownstone over there, which is really very fragile and has been damaged over the years. So, I would recommend that the committee, either, recommends that it's on the left side or else leaves it open, for Nick, to speak to the contractor and for Nick to determine that. But it's just, I don't know where the downspout is going to end, being that there's a porch there.
If I may say something, I definitely agree with Nick where the spout on the right, I think it'd be the perfect solution to sort of tuck it away behind that sort of non-original protrusion there. I think bringing it down on the left, kind of, it's the facade of the building and it's just sort of drawing a line right down the middle. I can't speak for drainage. Like you had pointed out, our purview is what it looks like from the street. And I think from the street, kind of being able to kind of tuck it behind there would be a great solution. I think that we don't know anything about drainage, nor is that our we're not really expected to know anything about drainage. But if the contractor could let us know if it's absolutely impossible, but without having that information, I don't know if we're really equipped to make a decision on whether if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So,
Yeah.
so if I may tell you one other thing, if you look at the top part of it, where the cone is over there, if we could just focus on that, on the frontage of the cone, the drain wraps around there, and where the water is intended to go is, if you look underneath the roof line, the water is intended to all go to the right, and it's not going to the right because when it rains, you have this massive slope over there. And so the design was poor because it gets overwhelmed and there's not enough for it to go to the right. There is a spout on the other side, but that's not enough. So what has to happen is you need to balance it to be in the front. Otherwise, you're still going to have the same problem with the water. And, that's what I'm remembering now that can you hear me okay? Yeah. Hello?
I think it's a technical problem that we can't answer without having the expert here. Like I said, we could go by the visual, and visually, I do think that the idea of tucking it behind there is as far as preserving the look of the front of the building, I think that's an elegant solution to sort of hide it in there. As far as the functionality, we probably would need to have the expert come in here and explain the challenges. And if they're not here, then I don't know if we could make a decision today.
Yeah, I think you've got a point, Ed.
Right. So why don't I make the recommendation that let's make that the preferred option, and then you can remand the details to staff to work with the contractor to find the best possible solution. So whether it be the preferred section on the right side, or if it has to be on the left side, I can work with them if you want to make that decision, empower me to do that, but it does have to be in an emotion. Because
I think that's a good,
spinning
I mean,
our
it's
wheels right
essentially,
now.
it's essentially your recommendation in the staff comments as the preferred solution, and then what the alternate that you suggest there. It seems like that's what we should.
Yeah, well, we're not revealing any new information at this point anymore, so I think we should go to public comment and move this application along.
Perfect.
In that case, then let's move to the public comment. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Let me take a look here. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand. Let me just check the portal for any public comments. There are no public comments to this application, Sharon, so I can turn it back to you.
Okay, in that case, then I think we've come to a point where we can make a motion on two parts of this application. And the first, let me address the downspouts, because our first preference, I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to staff to meet with the contractor to get expert detail on the location of the downspout and Otherwise, and I'm sorry to be wordy about this, otherwise, we approve it with a proviso. Let me start over. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this downspout location with a proviso that staff meet with the roofing contractor and confirm that our preferred option is locating the downspout to the right of the cone. And if necessary, refer it back to the commission.
That sounds good, Sharon.
Okay, now the second part is a bit more complicated. I'd like to also invite other commissioners to make a better motion about the chimneys, because I have mixed feelings about that. I'd like to make a motion that we that we do not approve the chimney removal, but that we refer it to the Community Preservation Act funding that might resolve the problem April 1st, and inspectional services for the safety issue. Our concern is the appearance, the crown on the chimneys, which are a distinctive feature.
I think that's a perfectly said motion, Sharon.
And should we include the height as well, as being a distinctive feature, or?
Good point, yeah.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
So Sharon, if I may, are you looking to treat all three chimneys the same, or any differential between?
Well, as they are presented as three chimneys in need of addressing, they all have to be treated the same at this point.
Okay. Sharon, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, okay.
May I
Sorry, let's
interject
take a
one?
roll call. We have to take a roll call first, please.
All right, well, let me say, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a hand up. Is that for this?
Public comments over. It doesn't matter.
Okay, fine. In that case, then, I'm going to take a roll call. Ed? Aye or nay?
I as stated, yeah.
Okay. Helen?
Aye.
Aye or nay? All right. Kirsten?
Aye, sorry, aye.
Aye. Okay. Kirsten, and I vote aye. All in favor of the motions? Nick will write them up in a much more succinct way than I can, and that will be, for the time being, the end of application 26.0599.
May I say one thing?
Sure.
So in regard to, I understand how you voted, and everybody wants that with the chimneys. In regard to the downspout, if the contractor, now the way you phrased your motion, it changed a little bit as it was coming out, which I respect. But the problem is if the contractor explains that he can't go in the back part, which, as my memory is coming up to me as we're speaking about it, the reason he wanted it on the front because it was overloaded on the back. And if he explains that, now we're going to have to come back, and the contractor is renting a really expensive boom to come out there. He has to do all the work at once. And if we have to come back again.
No, David, the commission voted to say that the preference is the right side, but the contractor can work with me if we determined that right side is not an option and come up with a reasonable solution to put it on the left side, which sounds like that's the preferred side for you.
Okay, I don't care where it is as long as the contractor is good with it, but and you're good with it. But we don't have to come back to the commission according to the
No.
vote. No.
If we
No.
can't come to an agreement, they would have to come back. You would have to come back to the commission, but we'll take care of you, David. That's how the commission
Okay,
voted.
okay.
Okay.
God bless you. Okay,
Thank you.
I thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, David. I'll get you.
For
Oh,
your time, David.
Yeah, we'll speak in a day or so. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so next order is application number 26.0679AB, and that's 19-24 Orkney Road.
And I think Ari and his team are here. Where'd they go? I just saw them. Ah, there they are. Okay. Ari, you should be able to unmute yourself. I have the presentation. I can advance the slides. I also have all of the content that you provided me today for the presentation. So just let me know what you want me to show and we'll do it.
Sure. Sounds good. Thank you, Nick. Commissioners, nice to meet you. My name is Ari Arbabi. I work with Riverstone Partners. I am a resident of Brighton. I've lived there for the last 14 years with my family and with my parents. And background of me, I've done construction and real estate development for last 16 years. And I'm a graduate of the School of Architecture and Planning of MIT. The project that we have in front of you is 19-21 Orkney Road in Boston, in the Brighton neighborhood. This project is conversion of a neglected two-family home to 3 condos with minimum exterior modifications necessary to achieve this. As Nick is pointing out, the project is, you can see we are one of the 4 wood structure buildings on Orkney Road, sandwiched between all of the apartment buildings. And I believe you're all very familiar with this neighborhood. Nick, you can just go through the slides for the, as you can see, it's a beautiful house that has been neglected for many years. The exterior siding, old windows, and there's some original features of the property that they maintain, and there are a lot of things that they were added to it. On the back side of the house, as you can see, there's a big red porch that has been built and a fire escape. These features are not visible from the public road from Orkney. And because this property is sitting a little bit lower than the street behind it, they are not visible features. We do have as you can see, a garage that has been used as a shed and is falling apart. Part of this application, we are requesting approval to remove that. General notes about this project: the majority of the work we are doing is inside of the building. We are not doing any exterior demolition. We are not doing additions. We are not expanding the building, adding dormers or skylights. As a resident of Brighton, somebody who has been in this area for several years, I understand the neighborhood very well. So everything we are proposing is to respect that. This is the site plan, which basically shows that the building is going to stay as is. We do have a driveway that is located on the right side of the property. That driveway is going to stay, it gets resurfaced, and then that will be an opportunity for residents to park behind the building. Right now, behind the building, Nick, is it possible that you zoom in a little bit on the back side of the building? Does that allow you? No.
Was this helpful?
Yeah, this is great. So as you can see, back there right now, this doesn't show the overlay, but it's that the red deck that you see, that's gonna get removed. And we will create some parking back there, which is gonna be basically allows the residents to have some off-street parking in part of the Brighton that is really hard to find parking. the rest of the property is if you can go back for a second, I just want to do like a quick overview of that. Like, so the rest of the property is grass. We don't have any intentions to change it. As you can see on this landscape plan, we are showing a mulch bed around the property to make it look nicer and like add like some soft edging. There's in the back side of the property between our parking and the garages on both sides, we are showing a small landscaping strip to allow for like some shrubs to be installed. Generally just like improve the look of the property. But again, all of these are on the back of the property. On the front, we do have a walkway to the house. It's concrete, so we would like to just replace that with, pavers. We are showing lighting that there's some more details about that Nick can explain. We are, per Nick's recommendation, we are adding a native, shade tree to be added to the, front left corner of the property. And then there's some existing like, vegetation that we're gonna maintain. Nick, anything else you think on this slide I should explain?
We'll get to the egress windows.
Yeah.
Just mention, I mean, I guess just talk about the heat pumps and their lack of visibility, because that's typically a question that the commission will ask.
Correct. So this property, like any other property that is, being done in this year and age, it's gonna have modern heating cooling system. So we are gonna place the condensers on the back side of the property so they are not visible from the ORKNEY Road. This is the front elevation of the building. In summary, it's gonna stay the same. We have beautiful bay windows. We have 6/0 and 4/0 windows. We are hoping to replace them. Replace the windows, but keep the same pattern. We would replace the roof. Right now it's asphalt shingle roof. We'll replace that in kind. There are windows that they are marked as like with a circle. They are a nice feature of the property. We are gonna get those restored. In the front, at the entrance door, we have a wood door that is, I believe, original to the house, but is in a very, very rough condition. So we have some proposed doors that we would like to put in front of you so you can make a decision what would be appropriate. The previous owner of the property was a mason, so there are some masonry features around this property that has been added. Some of those are these brick columns that you can see that holding up the exactly right there, like they're holding up the roof. Those we don't believe that they're original to the house. They're very structurally sound, they've been built properly. So to just make it go well with the nature of the property, we are proposing to have them basically wrapped with AZAC, just like make it consistent with what everybody would like to see. There are some short columns that they are located in front of the property, in front of the yard from the street, and then also around the the entrance to the main entrance of the house. Per next recommendation, we are offering to remove those. What else on this elevation? As you can see, we have a porch. The porch will remain. And the railing, the existing railing right now, it's metal, is a black metal railing. Our preference is to not touch it, but next recommendation is to do replace it with white wood railing. We are open to do that. And I think that's really the extent of the work on this front elevation, which is, obviously visible from the street. I would say about the chimneys, I listened in long extent about the conversation about the chimneys on 77 Englewood. We do have two chimneys here. This property is no longer uses coal or wood. And the modern heating systems do not require to have chimneys. We don't believe they are a necessity for this property and part of the historic character of this property. So we are recommending removal of them. They both fall in the middle of like a living space, multiple floors. So they are definitely like a problem in the function. And our goal is to build a house that will function properly and will be, a place for people to live for several years. And chimneys that they are not functional, they typically provide, they are an issue. They are like waterproofing issue, and they just, over years they cause issues for the roof. So when we remove them, we'll make sure that with the new roof, we restore the roof using like the matching material to make sure that the work blends with the existing historic structure and maintains the visual integrity of the property. So that's it about the front of the house. On the east side, as you can see in the picture, over years there have been windows that they existed and they were removed, closed. There are some. I've shared some evidence with Nick about like windows that has been closed out because the function of the property that has changed over years. What we are proposing is to bring those windows back, and create like a uniform and symmetrical look at this east elevation. So everywhere on this elevation that you see like dotted black line, it's an old window that is being removed, and the windows that they're like they show glass and they're like white are the proposed windows. And as you can see, instead of like smaller, larger windows here and there, we are putting like 6 windows. 3 of them are, exact size replacement, and the 3 other are gonna be basically like mimicking like what's there, to just create that like, nicer visual. We do have living space in the basement. So as you can see, there will be windows that allows light and egress emergency access to to that level of the property. Can you go one back, Nick, please?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, so this is the back side of the property, which is again not visible from ORKNEY Road and from public streets. We are proposing to remove the decking and the fire escape and all that. Our building is gonna have full sprinkler system, so we are not required to have fire escape thankfully. So we can get that all removed and replace that with a very much smaller like decking in the back. And I think there is one window there that falls in the middle of the kitchen that we are just gonna close. Other than that is basically like replacing windows and doors and maintaining that look. And the last elevation is the west elevation, which we are keeping all the bay windows, replacing them. There is one window that we are proposing to get shifted. And the reason for that is that location of the property is the kitchen of that unit. So we have worked hard, multiple layouts with the kitchen company. Originally, they had that in the back of the house where those bay windows are. And we didn't want to modify those windows. We love those. We think it's a part of the house that we want to keep. So the sacrifice was to put the kitchen in the front, and slightly move the window. So, the residents or, the family is going to live there, they will have a comfortable kitchen. this window again is on the west side of the property, so it's not like, you know, forward facing to the street. And also the shade tree that we are installing in front of the property is gonna create like a visual barrier. So you know, if this is a concern, that will, you know, the shade tree will remove that. Again, on this side, there are also like, you know, living spaces in the basement, so there are like windows and you know, egress windows to provide safety to that floor. Next, we can go to the next page. So some of these are examples for you, just like basically focusing more on what we talked about. The front entrance to the property I mentioned is concrete, so we would like to remove that and install like permeable paver, which is going to be more pleasant looking. You can see on the second picture in the middle, like what the existing stair and steps look like. We believe sometimes when you do construction, they get damaged. So we are like just like, you know, proposing to replace them with limestone stair, which is very similar to the look of what it is today, right now. On the right side, you see those columns, the brick columns that I mentioned. The back column is, you know, maybe it's wood. What we are proposing to do is that we wrap the front columns with AZAC matching color to basically create consistency. And we would try to match the crown so it looks original. But it's a really good condition, and we are not hoping to demo that or make any changes. We are just doing this to truly please this commission and staff. If you want to go to the next page. This is the railing on the porch. Right now it's metal railing, is low profile. Per next recommendation, we took the sample from 66 Englewood, and we would, you know, we are fine to replace the metal railing with the white wood railing. And I think you're gonna get a very similar look that you get at 66 Englewood at our property. Okay. Door. This is the existing door that is original. You can ignore the look of this proposed door. There are a couple of options that Nick has done a lot of help, and he has looked at a lot of pictures and videos of our door, and we have provided several options that we would like you guys to look at and give us a recommendation. So the side lights are not original. We don't think they're original. We have not replaced them. That's how we, you know, we purchased the property. I would share that our preference is to replace this door with door and side light that comes together in one piece, because it will look nicer than a door that we just replace and two side lights that we buy separately, because there's never going to be an opportunity for us to match it. But if you guys choose an option that the doors and side lights come together, I think it's going to be, we're all going to create like a more visually pleasing, like, you know, look for the neighborhood. And then you can continue. The siding right now, it's wood with a 5-inch reveal. A replacement for appropriate replacement is James Hardy. And the cedar meal finish creates like a look of like the very appropriate and consistent with what it is today. And then the trim is gonna be basically like, you know, Hardy trims or AZAC. Yeah, and you can skip through these. These are just basically the specs that we have shared. Windows, we have made a recommendation. Again, we can talk about that. Roof is asphalt shingle, so nothing really to look at. And the lights in the front, this is, what I thought would be appropriate, and it's gonna look nice in the front walkway. But again, we don't have a preference. We can eliminate the scope or we can keep it. It's just a recommendation. Yeah. And Nick, you tell me like what's the I do have with me Chris Willander with James Hardy. Chris has done a lot of historic projects in several cities and towns. He has a presentation that if you feel it's appropriate now, we can go through that, or you can read your recommendations and then we can have Chris to go through his presentation after that.
All right. Anything else, Ari, before we move forward?
No.
Okay. So let's stop there. Commissioners, if you're okay, I'll read my recommendations, which I've already presented to you, but we can go over them on the record, and then you can do your thing in terms of debating all of the individual components, and then I will keep track of our comments here. And then when it comes time to vote, I know there are a lot of different elements to this project. I'll just keep track of everything one-on-one to make sure that we get everything into the decision letter. Does that sound good, Sharon?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'll just do that now. So 1921 Orkney Road. The structure is a two-story clapboard-clad colonial revival structure built around 1897 and historically known as the Horace B. Fisher House. The property has seen several historically insensitive changes over the years, included but not limited to the alteration of the front porch, in addition of a metal fire escape at the rear, and the removal of the original side lights, replaced with architecturally inappropriate vinyl stock lights, to name a few items. Regardless, the property still possesses a large degree of architectural integrity. So now I'll just go through all of the individual components that Ari's listed out in this proposal. So number one, the window relocation on both sides of the facade. Staff is recommending approval. When reviewing the window relocation or changes, it's recommended that the character-defining facades remain true to the existing character. However, it is the opinion of staff that the secondary facades, meaning the two side facades on this example, be relocated to allow some room for negotiation. In the case of 21 Orkney Road, these windows are not character defining and the proposed relocation would be minimal. Additionally, there are no sister properties near this property, meaning the facades do not have to match those of adjacent properties. Number two, window replacement. The current windows that were provided, staff is recommending denial. The recommendation is that the applicant can submit new window replacement specs from a different company and make that a provisos of the approval. There'd be no need to retain or return to the commission for this. That's my recommendation. These windows that are proposed have vinyl frames, which are not appropriate for the district as listed in the guidelines. So again, in addition to that, the profiles of the mutton bars are square and flat where they should be trapezoidal. Moving on to the driveway, staff is recommending approved with provisos. When reviewed in its context, the property driveway would cover a sizable portion of the property. It would directly abut the adjacent property's driveway, creating a large expanse of paved impervious surface. The guidelines recommend concrete drives, though this material does not weather well in New England's climate. Staff feels that if a driveway is to be created/expanded, as described in the district guidelines, this will be appropriate, specifically in this location. Staff does recommend approval for the currently proposed driveway with some sort of green buffer in between this driveway and the driveway of the adjacent property. Landscaping, staff is recommending approval as submitted. That includes the removal of the brick piers, the addition of shrubs and plantings, the rear driveway expansion, the paved areas, lighting are all recommended for approval as submitted. It should be noted that if there's going to be a fence at the rear of the property, it should be a simple wood slat fence as recommended. Let's move on. Garage and fire escape removal. Staff is recommending approval as submitted. It's the opinion of staff that the existing garage and fire escape are not character defining elements of the property and are therefore recommended for approval. I don't think Ari mentioned that in his original during his assessment, but I think we're all aware that's going to happen. Chimney removal, staff's recommending denial. The chimneys on the property are character defining elements, and therefore their removal should be denied. Front porch railing, staff is recommending approval with provisos. The front porch should be allowed to have the rails replaced with wood that come no higher than the bottom of the side lights of the Palladian window. The foundation skim coat at the front, staff is recommending approval as submitted. Front door and side lighting, staff is recommending approval with provisos. While the door is likely original to the building that exists today, I should say, it is in a state of advanced deterioration. Staff recommends that the door is restored or replaced in kind using a similar vintage, with the two piers next to the door remaining as is, and the side lights are reconstructed using some of the neighborhood examples that were demonstrated in these comments, and I can show those later if anyone wants to see them. So in terms of the hardy board siding and trim, staff is recommending either denial or approve with provisos. In accordance with the guidelines, staff recommends that the wood clapboard remain wood with the exact historical reveal that exists today. However, if the commission does decide to use hardy board, staff will recommend, staff would not object to certain elements to be constructed from the AZAC or hardy boards with a site visit and the same revealed dimensions. And in terms of the roof, staff is recommending approval as submitted. So I know that was fast, and I know I was reading really quickly, but I will turn it over to you, Commission, for deliberation. I think we should start with the overall site plan here, and if we want to start at the front facade and the front landscaping, we can go from there. Commissioners, I'll turn it back to you.
There's a great deal at work here. All right, so I do have a question regarding the front porch. There is currently a pair of half or short piers adjacent to the piers that are holding up the porch roof. Your drawings show that they will be gone. Is that correct? Excuse me, you're muted. Yeah,
Oh, he can. Go ahead, Ari. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
okay.
Yeah, that's correct. That was per Nick's recommendation. All of these short columns gonna get removed. And then
Okay.
starting from what's up there exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. All right, so commissioners, let us hear your thoughts.
I have two extremely low-hanging fruit comments. I think after our this is sort of the probably the easiest to tackle. I think after our previous chimney discussion, I think that I think they are defining of the house, so they should likely remain. And then the vinyl windows obviously are, that's just sort of a we just can't do the vinyl windows.
Yeah, I agree. And we have exhaustively discovered, or rather discussed chimney removal. Regardless of whether or not they are functioning, they need to be kept because they are part of the architectural integrity of the building.
Nick, do you mind zooming out a little bit so we can
Sure.
look at these chimneys? These chimneys, again, they are certainly not built with the house. They don't have those features or the crowns that, it was mentioned at 77 Englewood. If you have strong opinions, we will keep them. But again, I've lived in New England for many years, like you have, and you can keep them, but they're just gonna be source of leak and issues in the roof. But I understand you care about the visual of the house. I come from a school that practicality is very important as well. So I just wanted to put it out there. We can keep something that is not functional and every few years go back and patch this roof and try, put somebody's life at danger and have them up there to fix it. I'm fine doing that, but
So
I'm putting it out there.
Commissioners, I think we should go through the individual components on the facade. I don't think we're going to have a lot of time to defend every single decision or comment that we're making. So let's go through everything. We'll let the applicant respond to everything. Ari, if you don't mind, maybe taking some notes on some of the comments that we're deliberating on, so that you have the opportunity to have a rebuttal. But I want to be cognizant of or aware of everybody's time here, so that we can move forward in a timely fashion, rather than argue every single point as they're discussed. So
Understood. I do want to make sure that we get to Chris's presentation as well.
sure. I think that sure.
Right. Well, in that case, let me take them in order. The window relocation, is there any further discussion required on that? Commissioners?
It seems in the guideline or in the standards and criteria, it said the design of the window should be retained. That's a should, not a shall, and changing the size is discouraged, but that it is there is a discretion of the commission. So I feel that there is a little leeway there. I'm not clear if one of those windows is going to be made smaller. That's maybe a concern that I would have. That window I think on the west elevation.
That window is just basically, on the west elevation, we only have one window that is being shifted a couple of inches, but nothing else is changing.
Is it basically the same size, just being moved over?
I believe so.
And are there I wasn't clear from your the sections with the dotted black line. Are there any windows that are there now that are being removed and not replaced?
No, not on the west elevation.
Okay. Or on the east elevation. There's something on the east elevation that I wasn't clear whether that was a window that's there now that's being
So yeah, you see like up there on that right corner, exactly where Nick is, you see there are two windows. If you look at that picture up there are two windows that for the life of me, I don't understand why they were just like placed like that next to each other. So we are keeping one. We are getting rid of the other one.
The one that has the diagonal line is being
Exactly. Yeah.
removed. And
Okay.
the one that is to the left of that is actually being enlarged. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Right now, that's either in a bathroom or like in a hallway. And I think over time they decided to just like make that smaller. We are making that the same size as like the other windows that exist on that elevation.
But then the one to the right of that, so the one that's between that and the window that's getting removed, that looks like that's being made somewhat smaller. But will that be basically the same size as the one to its left? It's a little hard to tell.
That window that is the W10 that is highlighted, that's a little bit the width of it is the same, but the height of it is a little bit shorter because that's the kitchen area. So you have kitchen countertop and kitchen, like, you have some conflicts over there.
All right. I'm in agreement with Helen on her observations. Ed, do you have anything to add?
I
You muted
think that
Ed.
she was spot on, because with the way that the dotted line was, I hadn't even realized that the windows were different sizes.
Yeah. Kirsten? No, I guess Kirsten is in agreement with us.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, thank you. In that case, then, can we move on to,
Sorry, Sharon, just so we're kind of wrapping up all of these facades in one discussion.
okay,
We should talk about the basement windows.
okay,
So because they're egress windows. So if you see, here's the driveway, and then here's an egress well that has to be constructed. Based on my guidance, Ari has proposed plantings in front of them to screen them from the street. So let's just wrap up this facade so we don't have to return to it.
Good. All right. Well, thank you. I overlooked it. Sorry about that. If from the drawings, it appears that they would not present any conflict in either design or appearance. But correct me if I'm wrong, other commissioners?
I guess not to not to complicate things too much, but those window wells seem to be somewhat related to the placement of the driveway. And that's kind of a separate issue, but to me, they're interrelated. And I don't know if we want to get into that now or wait till we have done all the facades of the building, of the house.
In concept, in terms of the well, are you comfortable with that right now, regardless of the driveway? Because then we can go to the driveway and then discuss that after.
Yeah, actually, I am personally comfortable with that. Let me solicit the other commissioners.
I think Helen and I are on the same page, because I was thinking the driveway and then that sort of green strip that's next to the driveway. So as long as it doesn't interfere with that, we can discuss the driveway in a separate topic.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So so we discussed the east elevation. Now let's move over to let's get the easy stuff out of the way. So the rear elevation, which you could probably see glimpses of it from Englewood, but it's also, there's a lot of improvements on this side here. Any comments or concerns about the rear elevation? No?
So,
No, none from me.
Will there be the red kind of deck that's in the existing conditions photograph? Will that be replaced by sort of a small exit deck? Is that
Yes.
what I'm saying?
That's what I saw.
Exactly, Helen, you're accurate. Yep.
And what are the
Yeah.
materials of that deck? Because I don't know if that was.
It's not going to be visible, but it's going to be like just regular AZEK decking.
That is true. That deck probably is not visible even from what would it be the other street, Englewood?
Englewood,
Nick, I
yep.
think that at that point that deck probably isn't really visible from.
That's true, Ellen. I checked that out the other day, so that's not visible.
I
So you're
think
correct.
therefore we maybe don't need to concern ourselves with that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I think there's
you.
landscaping on the side to kind of cover up the cars as well. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So anything else on the rear facade?
I don't think so.
Okay. So let's pivot to the this facade, so the west facade, which is the one window relocation, and then there's a window well here, and then also another window relocation on the basement level as well. So.
Well, I would observe two things, and it might not be big, but the window relocation lines up to some extent with the third story windows. So visually, it's somewhat balanced. The other is that the window wells on that side appear to line up with the second floor windows. So if you're really looking at it very closely, it balances.
Good. Also, I'm just pointing out details here. So Ari has proposed A, keeping the existing large tree, and B, shielding these wells from visibility from the street with several shrubs that will grow in over time. So that's another way of screening these wells as well.
Yeah, it's commendable to have as much planting as possible, given that we've in the last few years had some weather events that cause us to give greater attention to water runoff and where to put the snow when we get it.
Okay. All right. So we have 3 facades done. While we're at it, I think we should probably discuss the landscaping, and then we'll go over to the front facade. So
Okay.
landscaping includes the removal of the garage, the additional paved in the rear, the replacement of the non-historic concrete pavement in the front, the addition of 2 lights next to the walk, as well as obviously we talked about the shrubs, and then of course the relocation of the drive in the front. So let's discuss those points at this time.
Okay, Ed.
The most of the everything in the back is going to be barely visible. I do the green strip in between the 2 properties, I think is very important. One question about the shape of the driveway. It looks as though it sort of takes a little bit of a turn at the road. Is that, I think right now, is it straight and then it's going to curve now, or?
That's not our intention. We are gonna basically, right now, we have a driveway at the existing location, so we are basically repaving that. As you are aware, like the minimum width of a driveway legally in city of Boston is 10 foot. So we'll make sure like, we are legal and, meet the code requirements, but we are not intending to like to turn it or change it. We are gonna keep it where it is. That I don't know why the drawing showed it that way. That's not our intention.
I see. Okay, that's reassuring.
I wasn't sure also if it was because it looks like now everyone's kind of parking right up along the house, and it's sort of to push out that green area as well. I wasn't sure if it was to accommodate actually the more green. Just something that I noticed and was
I
wondering.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think that the sort of green space between the 2 driveways is important.
Yeah. And Helen, any observations?
Yes, I agree. I agree that having a green strip when like a 3-foot wide. I think we need to define that a 3-foot wide green strip between the properties, because these driveways will be right next to each other. It would look like a big practically parking lot without some differentiation.
Yeah.
So I think that is important, and that was where my concern was, to have a room for that 3-foot wide green strip and still have room for the driveway and that window well that's on that side there. Again, and I also, so that I had that question about the driveway seeming to curve. So if it's driving, it's just going straight. I think that's good.
Helen, if I may, this is something that we have discussed with our neighbor at 15 Orkney Road, sorry, 17 Orkney Road. So we are both working together to provide, space, and they provide space, and then we create something that is just visually like, some like planting and green space in that space. So obviously I'm only showing my side of the driveway, but I'm working with my neighbors, so they do the same thing. So it's going to be something a little bit more meaningful.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
A couple other points, because we had a lot of things here on this plan. I do, from the public comments from the abutter, mention that there were planting beds listed in the planting in the landscape plan, but the size of them wasn't delineated. So I think that would be important for that to be defined, so that we actually get the amount of planting that we expect. And another, I think, important item regarding the garage. It does seem like it's not original to the house. It does seem like it's not architecturally significant. And the guidelines do allow for, on a case-by-case basis, the commission allowing the removal of a non-contributing later feature. And I think this would fall in that category. I think nonetheless, because of how important outbuildings are to a number of buildings in the houses in the Aberdeen district, especially the early ones with the carriage houses, but some of the later ones with a garage that was built to match the house. That's one of the defining characteristics of Aberdeen. So I think it's important to just note have documented in our comments that if we do approve removing that garage, it is because it is a later non-contributing addition, and that we're not, setting a precedent for removal of outbuildings. The front
Said
wall,
Helen.
I guess my question to staff is if the proposed materials for those are appropriate for the district, and if so those pavers that I think were proposed, if those are, just want to
Yes.
kind of confirm those are
Yeah, they're
appropriate.
permeable also, which is a preference of, which is listed in the guidelines as a preference.
And so actually, thank you. And then jumping actually back from there back to the driveway for a minute. I know that and it's in our staff comments, so I don't know if I can find that piece right now, that a permeable surface is preferred. That's in the guidelines, but I don't think a macadam surface is that, and I guess I need to confirm
Blacktop?
that we're looking at a macadam surface, but
Yeah, the
but that's
parking
not, I don't think,
area and driveway will be just blacktop.
yes. That's not disallowed. It's not the
Right.
but I think that's another reason why, because it's not with New England winters, it's probably a more practical solution than some properties we require a gravel driveway, some properties have that, but that can be a difficult maintenance issue in New England weather. So I think given the circumstances or the conditions there, the blacktop is appropriate. But I think that's another reason why it's important to have the green space, the 3-foot green space between, to not have just this huge expanse of paved area.
I'm sorry,
because
Helen. I don't know where the 3-foot space came from. Is that something you saw in a drawing or your?
No, for the recommendations in the staff comments. Recommend small 2 to 3 foot green buffers installed between the two driveways.
Yes, I
Yeah,
saw
as
that
long as
also.
as long as it's like 2 to 3 feet, we are gonna do our best to create that, but I don't want to commit to like a number that is not achievable. So as long as like you give us a little bit of room for play, we will do our best when we do construction. You know how it works when you're actually in the field. So thank you for clarifying that.
I think we do need to though have that specified, because
I
I
agree.
wouldn't want to lose that
Yeah.
that element.
Okay.
No, I think the way that Nick mentioned 2 to 3 feet, that's I think it has like some guidelines for us.
So we can debate that. I think that's fine. I do want to get to the other elements, some of the more trickier elements on the property. Unless you want to keep talking about this. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, I think we can move on unless the other commissioners have more to add.
Okay. All right. So let's pivot to the front of the property, and I want to include so at the last element I want to talk about is the siding. I just want to make sure we cover that. So for the front, though, we're going to talk about, and I'm just making a list for myself, we're going to talk about the railing. Sorry, Ari, did you remove the railing from your application?
No, I have
Okay.
not.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll talk about the railing. We're going to talk about the front door, the side lights, the porch columns, and then we'll talk about the siding. All right. So Commissioner, why don't you take it in that order? We'll start from top to bottom. So let's talk about the railing.
Actually,
my
I would
only-
like to.
Go
Sorry,
ahead, Sarah. Go ahead, Helen.
I just, in order to talk about the railing, I would like to get clarification, because it's listed as a deck railing, I think, in the plans. From the Google view, that looks to me like a portico or a porch, and that's a porch roof, not a deck. to me, why that's significant is because if it's actually a deck, it probably requires a higher railing. If it's a porch roof, then it would be acceptable to have the shorter railing that's recommended in the staff comments.
And Helen, you'll see in my staff comments that I recommended that the railing meet the bottom sill of these side lights.
Right.
It
Right.
looks like the current ones do that, and it also looks like in Ari's drawings here that it does that. If that's the case, that would meet my staff recommendation.
Okay.
Next, so I did some investigation per your recommendation. So I measured from to the bottom of the sill, and it is 28 inches. And as Helen mentioned, this is actually a walkout porch. The minimum height for like the fire department and building department to approve is 36. If you don't mind going through to the picture, that example that you provided to me for the guidance, what we will have to do is just be compliant with, if we are replacing it. If you guys want it to stay at the same, we will not touch it. But if you want us to replace it, we have to be code compliant. So if you look at this property, which is, I believe, 66 Englewood, the bottom of this, zoom in a little bit, you see like the railing is at 36, and then the bottom of the sill is probably 28. So we are gonna create a very similar condition to this if this is acceptable to you.
So that the door or the window rather under the Palladian half moon on your property, is that actually a door? Or those
It is
two
a,
windows, do
it
they actually
is,
open out on 19 Orkney?
they do, yes,
So that actually is a deck, not just a porch roof.
that's correct. It is a deck, yeah,
That's code, that's like code compliant for being a deck.
that's correct.
I mean, in that case, then that becomes like a code issue in terms of the height of the railing. That's why I wanted to get clarification on this now.
Helen, you can, I think there's a remnant of the original rail right here. Do you see it on this graphic right here?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, all right, I can see that. Given that there's access to the porch or the deck, whatever, from the half moon window, I think we have to agree that 36 inches is the desired height.
Is it possible to approve the materials and then have staff work with the applicant to finalize the height?
I would just
I
say
would think
that
so. What do you think, Helen?
truthfully, I would like the
I want
commission.
to
Yeah,
let Nick say what he wants to say.
I think I want the commission to make the decision on the height. I think that's something I'm not comfortable making on my own because I would want it to match. Well, I'd want it to follow my staff recommendation. So if it needs to be higher, I think you need to make that decision and go from there. I think my staff recommendation stands.
I agree with your staff recommendation in terms of aesthetics and balance and whatnot. If this is actually a deck, there may be a code compliance issue that it's not even up to us to make a decision about. That would be a like an ISD or zoning code issue. That's why I wanted to clarify whether this is actually a deck.
If our purview is the appearance and the preservation of the house, then we can approve the look of it, and then it would be up to somebody else about the height and the code then. Is that correct?
Not entirely. Since there's a remnant of the previous railing in this photo, I think we can use that as a guideline.
For the historical.
Yeah, for the historical accuracy. Yeah.
If that's the case, then I'm comfortable going with staff recommendation on the height.
Nick, how do you feel about that?
The staff recommendations that I submitted. I'm okay with that.
So
You
Nick,
can-
I just add that as a builder, I will not put a railing up there that is not up to code. Somebody falls down and something happens to them, it's my liability and I go to jail. So if that's the decision with the height, we will keep it as the metal railing as it's today. I cannot take that liability.
The thing is that we don't know about the metal railing is if it was put there, what the code was when it was put there, if it met code or if the code has changed since then.
Absolutely
So,
right. Correct.
so that's why I don't want to get stuck on this for too long. We've already been on it a long time, but I just think there's a piece of this that might be out of our purview. If that actually is, to me, originally just looked like a porch roof, and I didn't really think it was a deck. And in that case, definitely the lower railing would be preferable, and we would be able to require that. But if that's actually a deck, then I think there's something, there's a code and safety issue that's outside of our purview.
And you do plan on keeping it as a deck. You're going to leave. You're not going to seal up those doors, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say is there's a high probability that these were bay windows that were able to open, and that the balusters that used to be there were decorative balusters and not intended to be a safety rail. And I think that's why you'll get those dimensions that you're seeing with those balusters that are left over on the wall. To me, from my understanding and knowledge of colonial revival architecture, they would have never been a widow's walk above the front portico.
No, definitely not.
So, and I'll also say that, code compliance is, it's not under our purview. We're just merely dealing with aesthetic, and we don't have to, we have to be careful. We don't have to approve something just because it's code. We have the ability to reject anything that's in the commission's purview.
So it sounds like you're recommending we punt.
My recommendations are on paper, so.
Thank you. Right. Okay. One last thing. Kirsten, would you like to add anything to our discussion? Now, if that is the case, then can we wrap up the
Is
considerations for
Kirsten's
the
muted? Is she able to
Oh.
unmute herself?
Nick is
Oh, now I can. No, I don't have anything contrary to what you guys just.
all right. Then I'd like to recommend that we go with the staff comments as written on this particular point, the porch or deck or whatever we want to call it, and the railing.
I agree.
Okay. I think the last thing, Nick, would be, you're muted, Nick.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The last thing would be,
The door,
oh
the
no, I'm
side
sorry, I've
lights,
got two more, the front door and the side lights, and then the siding.
and then the siding,
Yeah.
correct. So let me go to the best graphic to show here. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, Ed, you're suddenly muted. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All right, I'd like to start the discussion by observing that the front door is the most prominent part as you approach the building. So as much as humanly possible, keeping it historically accurate is desirable. And yes, the side lights look like they've been added at some point in the last century, but not the best part. I realize that fitting a door and side lights that aren't manufactured together can be difficult, but living in a place that's 100 years old myself, I know that nothing is ever level or plumb. So it's a fact of life. In that case, I would like to recommend that the developer do whatever they can to get as historically accurate a door and side light as is humanly possible and not a modern reproduction. That is, however, my observation. And commissioners, the floor is yours.
I couldn't have said it better.
I guess what I would like to add is that, yeah, staff recommends that finding a historical door, and I think if that's possible, that would be desirable. But I think of utmost importance is the door should be wood. It should be actually wood, not
Yes.
if a modern door does need to be, like a historically designed modern door does need to be procured, that the door needs to be wood. And regarding the side lights, I think that what it seems like is that there were larger openings that got sort of enclosed, and then there's this little sort of fake lead glass, narrow, tall panels there now, but those are, it was kind of filled in. There's like filler around that. So those side lights to me should be opened back out to their original size. And Nick had some, in staff comments, there were some examples of side lights from Englewood Avenue. And I guess the traditional manner of side lights would be like 4 or 5 small panes separated, and then possibly a wood, it's sort of the bottom of the, either 4 panes and then with a little bit of wood at the bottom, or 5 panes and kind of taking up the whole space. But to me, it seems like that needs to be resized, or whatever. Can't think of quite the right word, but restored to the original size of the side lights that were there, and a style similar to the ones we find on Englewood Avenue or some of the other surrounding houses that would have been similar to what probably would have been there originally.
Okay.
I think door is a conversation we have worked with Nick a lot on. I need some guidance that we can make this go. If you don't mind opening up like the Google Maps, I want everybody to just understand like the context of this area. Nick, if you don't mind, go back to 19, Orkney. So let's look at I want to look at every one of the properties next door to us. You can, if you want to go to the right and we look at, the door that is installed there, approved by the Aberdeen Commission. That's an example of like what's installed and what's available there. If you don't mind, go back across the street to 20 ORKNEY Road. This is a door and the side lights that they do exist. If you want to go back to 23.
Yeah, but Ari, I think this is you said this was a good example.
No,
context?
no, I'm just saying what's out there. I'm
Okay.
not saying if it's good example, if it's put down under, like some of them you guys have approved, some of them I'm sure you have not been shared. This is another property right now, 23 Orkney Road, and you can see the doors, and I believe there's a storm door on that. So I'm committed to provide to create a house that looks pleasant and everybody enjoys looking at it. But I have to be able to do that. So I've looked at many, many doors. I have gone to places that all they do is just like selling doors. I do understand that, you know, you want to have a door that is actual wood, and I think that's possible, and I can achieve that. But I do need some guidance, and I need some leeway to like to just make it happen. We have, you know, with the side lights, we have an option of not touching the side lights. Replace the door with a wood door. If you guys leave it to staff, I can work with Nick and, you know, give him options of the wood door and do that. If the side lights, you want us to like, you know, touch the side lights, I understand. If I don't touch something, then I don't have to, you know, follow any guidelines. But if I'm touching the side lights, I need to, you guys allow me to create something that is visually pleasing. And I cannot, if I'm buying a wood door, the side lights, they're not gonna match. So if the goal is visually creating something pleasing, I need the commission to give Nick a lot of leeway so he can work with me, and I find like a cost-effective solution to create that. So that's my ask.
Well, I can appreciate the ask, Avi, but 3 of the 4 examples, including the one we're looking at right now, they have enclosed the porch.
But
And there's
Sharon, I
an
think
inner
this is,
door with
I think
guidelines.
this door here is a nice, simple, straightforward wood door. It's
Mhm.
not the most beautiful door, but it's simple and straightforward and probably cost effective. I would say that this is a good option for the door at 18. It's very simple and yeah. So
Okay. But Avi also addressed the side lights, getting them to match. So he's requesting leeway to be to have some flexibility in discussing alternatives other than when you get a door and side lights that come as a single unit. Is that correct, Avi?
I have an option of closing those side lights. If, you know, I can basically create what the door that Nick is showing on 18. We can buy that door and then close the side lights if that's something that will, you know, you guys want. So we don't have to look at these side lights that have been bought from Home Depot and, you know, they're not even part of the, you know, original
Yeah.
part of the house.
Can I ask a question? Why is it not possible, or is it possible, put it that way, to open out that space where the side lights, that has been filled in, and order windows that fit that space, which would probably be something similar to what was originally there? Like, is that not a feasible thing to do?
It is a feasible thing to do, but it's not going to match that door that we are buying because it has to be a separate purchase, a different material, different glass, and it's all a component of it is cost. You know, the side light that you're mentioning, each of them is $600, and with the carpenter installing it, you're talking about a couple of $1,000. There are no other funds available to us, so it all has to come from my pocket, which is not very deep.
commissioners, can I just list out some parameters here?
Sure.
Yeah.
The door frame, let me get to, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah.
This and this, these are original components of the door. They should not be touched. If it's not in the budget of the applicant, the side light should just be left off the conversation, and a new door should replace this one that's wood, and that's all we have to do. This configuration is the historic configuration. That's what we're supposed to do, is to maintain the historic integrity. If the side lights can't be replicated similar to the property that we showed previously, I would just leave them. And perhaps the new owner, or if it's, you know, someone else down the line can restore them. So that's where we are.
I think that's a helpful observation, Nick. And I didn't realize that the embellishments over the door frame were part of the historic thing. Definitely
my
need to be
concern.
preserved. So let's separate the side lights from the original, from the door.
So this is the design on this property here that I've
Yeah.
included in my staff comments. This is overall what what the property should look like. It should look very similar to this. A door with one window, and 2 side lights with this woodwork down here on either side of the side lights.
Okay,
You can see on 19 to 21 Orkney Road that original configuration is essentially still there. So you see this little gap here. This is from
yes,
because this is a stock side light, and
Yeah.
this is also a stock side light, and there's this little gap that they left off because they're just filling in the stock components. If that's not something that we can do, we should just leave it as is. That's it. If we want to replace the door, I would encourage the door to be restored. It doesn't sound like that's feasible. Then we can replace it with a very simple door, a wood door that looks like this. That's my recommendation.
okay. I would go with it. How about the rest of the commission?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't preclude at some point in the future that the side lights could be restored to their original
Mhm.
profile and size. And, you know, if that's not in the budget now, it might be something that this owner could do in future or a future owner could do.
All right, so let us agree on that and move on to the siding.
Okay. Do we want to let Ari give the presentation about the hardy board siding? It's my recommendation that we do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
I do want to comment that original or later, I'm reading from the original or later contributing wood materials and elements, including clapboards, shall be retained. So that is a shall in the guidelines.
Let's bring this. Let's see. Gonna bring this up. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Share new screen. Okay. Ari, who was it that need to unmute?
I think his name here is Chris V1.
Okay. Chris, you should be able to unmute yourself. Chris?
It looks like he's on a phone. Is that the star? We'll unmute him.
*6, correct. There you go.
Perfect.
Good evening.
Evening.
Apologies here. My wife is traveling for business, so I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old alongside me that might be contributing if you hear any noise. But my name's Chris Valandre. I work for James Hardy Building Products. I've been working in the greater Boston area with Hardy Siding for the better part of the last 8 years. I have run into my share of projects in historic neighborhoods, and I have been involved with a few other projects with Amir over the years, and I was helping him with this project, the design and all the different parts and pieces. You can continue to advance the slides here. So a little bit about James Hardy Building Products. Believe it or not, James Hardy is one of the largest siding manufacturers in the world and the largest siding manufacturer in North America. The company's been around for over 130 years. It's been operating in North America since the late 1980s. Things that make Hardy siding advantageous to use, especially here in the Northeast, is it's made of cement or fiber cement. And fiber cement, when you compare it to all the different exterior cladding products out there, it gives you all the advantages of each one. So wood, it's traditional, it's beautiful, it's warm, it's what every siding material is trying to look like. But then if you compare it to brick, like the previous property, that property is in a historic district. It's lasted for a very, very long time with a very little maintenance required. It's super durable, along with stucco and stone and all those products. Very durable. You know, metal and vinyl and PVC-based siding materials, they're extremely low maintenance as well. But the only siding material out there that has all of the advantages of all those products: durability of masonry, look of wood, low maintenance of vinyl or PVC-based sidings. The only one that has all that is James Hardie fiber cement. And when it is applied to the wall, it's very difficult to tell the difference. The finishes are baked on, so you have a very low maintenance cycle. So your costs over the long term of the property, of holding the property, are going to be much lower, and it's going to look good for a lot longer than comparable products like wood. I shared in this document here, we have been a part of studies or have contributed to the National Park Service for their historical guidelines. I listed projects in here that are local to this project that we have gotten Hardie approved on the exterior because the durability of modern wood siding today, the cost of modern wood siding today, the resiliency and sustainability of James Hardie compared to wood siding or wood-based sidings of today, and then the lower maintenance cost and longer life cycle of fiber cement siding compared to the modern wood sidings of today. If you go down a few more slides, these are local examples right here. This is a large commercial building in Medfield. There was one in Salem, one close by in Newton, Brookline. And we were able to get Hardie approved on all of these. There's dozens more, but these were the most recent ones that I had available. And then at the end, I included a case study down in Washington, D.C. Totally different market, but very historical, significant area in the Northeast. I wanted to include that for everyone to see.
Okay. Is that it, Chris?
That's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. And commissioners, I do want to clarify something that Chris said, because he does bring up a good point. So the Secretary of Interior standards does allow for new alternative materials on a case-by-case basis. These are the new national standards for preservation. That being said, we do have our own individual guidelines that explicitly lay out the preference for original materials, and then also the ability to consider other materials on a case-by-case basis. So, Chris, thank you so much for your input there. Commissioners, any questions for Chris? No. All right. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to put you on mute now, okay?
Of course.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners?
All right, so if I understand this correctly, this is fiber cement. It is not vinyl.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Do we have any information as to, is it proposed that the entire structure be clad in this, or only like the east facing sides that are prone to greater weathering?
Sharon, the existing siding of the property is in a very poor shape, so we will be replacing all the four sides with the matching material.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Commissioners, any comments?
And commissioners, you'll see in my staff comments that if you do decide to consider an alternate material, that I would recommend a subcommittee to set up a sample to be reviewed. So,
Yeah, well, I would also like to add, there was another structure about 3 years ago on Commonwealth Avenue where we had a similar question come up. I don't know I don't recall if it was hardy board or something else, but we did have to have a subcommittee look at the material in daylight, not from a picture. And I think ultimately we approved it, but it wasn't for the entire structure. It was just like one or two facets that were in poor repair. So, and I think it was before you joined us, Ed, so maybe
Definitely. Yeah.
Helen
Yeah.
could, sorry?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was before
Yeah.
me.
Okay. And Helen and Kirsten, any comments? Are you both muted?
No, they
No,
can
I'm
give it a
not
mute.
muted. I'm trying to think of what to say. I am, a little hesitant about this material. I definitely agree with Nick. If we consider this material, we need to have a what he recommends here,
Subcommittee?
to actually look at samples in real life. But as I mentioned, the commission original later wood materials, it says including clapboard shall be retained, so that is what's the guidelines say. So
I
that's
know,
my comment.
but in view of new materials that are coming up, I really think we want to give some serious consideration to this. So let me suggest, and you're free to alter it, that we do an in-person on-site meeting with sample materials.
Sharon, if I may interject, so Hardy panel, it's not new material. Hardy has been around for several years.
All right, I stand
It's
corrected.
New to
yeah.
new to the area or new to our purview.
Yeah, I no, totally understand. I didn't mean to
Mhm.
correct you. I'm just saying like it's the most commonly used material that is out there and is being installed because of where we live. As a builder, I would not warranty a house that has wood exterior installed today because we are not able to provide that warranty because of like what's going to happen down the road in a couple of years because of the moisture, because of the maintenance issues, because of termite, because like issues with birds, and the fire risk that is associated with it. So I'm not gonna like go into length with why this is a preferred material for like the construction industry. The reality is that a lot of like properties in the historic district do not go through a full renovation. So that's why you're seeing this. And a lot of properties that they're located in this district or other districts that you guys are work on, they have brick exterior, which is very appropriate and long lasting. So I can there is no shortage of properties with James Hardy installed. I can obviously host everybody to go, and we will find many properties that have this. I'm very happily out there to do it, but I'll put it out there.
Let me
Do you
ask you
guys
this then.
want to preserve a, sure, go ahead.
Could you provide a sample?
Absolutely. I can provide you samples at your office tomorrow morning
Okay.
at Nick's office. Yeah. And because the mock-up, like I can take you to several properties that are out there, but I want to make sure like we make like a decision that is timely. I have a $6,000 a month like loan that I'm paying to just like keep this property and like sit here.
If I can say something, so basically this material, which is new to us, obviously has been on the market for a while, that would be an exception to the rule. So I think Sharon was sort of being generous and allowing us to evaluate the material. But as far as if the rule says wood. So as far as if I had to make a decision today, I would say that we should stick with the guidelines and go with wood. But if everyone else is open to sort of taking a look at the material and seeing how it looks in daylight on site, then I would go with the group, if that makes sense.
Yes. It
But
does to me.
I would be hesitant to right now say to use this material without, because like I said, the rule says wood, so it would be an exception to the rule. So making an exception to the rule sort of sets a precedent that is going to kind of move forward for the entire district. I hope you can understand.
Yeah. I agree with that.
We should move on to public comment. It is getting late, so
Yeah.
But could I, there's one more thing regarding materials that I'm not sure if we covered. There was the mention of covering the
Yes.
brick, the columns in the front. Is that material, does anybody have any objections to that material that is going to be going over the bricks?
No, I think that was covered with the Harding board earlier in the discussions. Yeah, the front porch.
It's the
Specifically the columns, I
Yeah.
forget the
Right.
name of the material.
Artec or
Artec, that's it.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
we're basically going to, it's called AZAC, but we're basically going to create the same look that you see the two columns in the back have,
Yes.
which we believe they are original to the house. So we are going to try to mimic that look to just create like 4 pillars that seem to have been there for since day one.
Is it a vinyl or is it what is the I'm not familiar with that.
It's an alternative to wood, so it's a composite material.
yeah, and commissioners, we've approved that before for small areas of cladding, and especially because the existing columns on the front are not historic or original.
Perfect.
To me, I'm recommending approval without exception.
Perfect. Yeah,
because-
thank you.
Yeah,
it will improve
Okay.
what's it's also something that's replaceable in future if some better.
exactly.
I'm sorry to be later, but I just have one last question when we were on the landscaping that I don't want to keep us from moving on, but on the landscaping, it seems like on the left-hand side of the walk, there's two like sort of lights on columns or something. I wasn't clear about that and kind of why they're on the same side, like why there aren't just some side lights, some lights like on the sides of the door, or if there are these columns, like why there's 2 things on the same side of the
The walkway?
and how tall they are.
These are going to be on a pole. If you put both of them at the same, at the same place, they're gonna create lighting in that one area and not in the rest of the walkway. So what the reason that they are back to each other is just basically to lit the walkway along the way. Having that said, I really don't have a preference to keep them or throw them away or honestly anything. I think the street is well lit. So I think next recommendation was to, instead of 2, do 1 of them. It's a pretty pleasant looking light, but I don't want to take the time of the commission for that matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's against. It's sort of out. I don't know if there's any regulation one way or the other about that. It just seems a little unbalanced to have those 2 poles on the right side and a little bit like obtrusive of the view of the facade of the house. That's just my comment on that.
Yeah, we can eliminate it or just make it 1 to simplify everybody's life.
I would like to recommend that we eliminate them. I don't think they're necessary since there are going to be porch lights.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, the description says on both sides of the walkway.
But the
The drawing, yeah, you're
drawing
correct.
shows it on the
Yeah.
same side.
Yeah, no, that's a good
I
catch.
apologize. It's this one is outdated.
All
All
right.
right, in the interest of time, may I suggest that we move on to public comment?
Good.
If that's agreeable to everyone?
Yes, yeah.
All right, members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Okay. Commissioner Cayley, how much time do we want to allot for each public comment?
Given the lateness of the hour, I would like to keep it to 3 minutes if that's at all possible.
Okay, all right. Okay, first up we have is Ava. Ava, thank you for your patience. You have around 3 minutes to go ahead and give your public comments. We also submitted to the commission your public comment in writing. So if you want to hit the highlights or you want to hit something else, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Well, I would like to ask Commissioner Cayley to reconsider the 3-minute limit. We have been sitting here for over 2 hours, and there were many instances that were discussed where we could have added something very, very productive and useful to this discussion. And now, with all sorts of issues ahead of us, I don't even know where to start. And I do believe that I have valuable things to say. So please.
Mrs. Webster,
With
if I
30 seconds
may
in now.
interrupt, I can extend it to 4, but the reality is we have all read the comments that you submitted. So I think you can probably get right to the meat of the matter.
Yes, I didn't in my submitted comments, I didn't cover all the issues. Okay, can we move?
Would you like to start with the top 5 issues that are most important to you? And I can make it 4 minutes, but that's really all.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I really don't. I'm too nervous because it's just putting me on the clock. The whole format of the meeting is such that it disadvantages the commenters, the people who live next to this house and in the neighborhood. There should be at least a chat opportunity so people can maybe drop a sentence or two that informs the conversation.
Ava, this is how the state set this up. I'm here to help you, and let's start with the things.
Okay. All right. Can we see the slide? Can we see the slide on the front door, please? There are other issues that are more important to me as an abutter, but I care about the street and the front facade of this. And I think that it would be just a huge mistake, really an abomination, to leave the current, not original sidelights, who don't even fit in the original openings. It's Helen's idea to essentially put new proper size panels, windows in the existing opening is a good alternative. But I just want to point out that the stoop of this entire door element, because originally it was one assembly, right? They ended up painting the side light parts white, but originally it was one assembly of the same color, and it was installed probably even as one assembly. The stoop in the bottom is so worn that you cannot sell condos to people and stiff them with a stoop that is totally worn out and where the door doesn't fit with the sidelights. It'll just look inappropriate, in my opinion. But I don't want to spend any more of my precious minutes on this. I just want to point out that inside this vestibule, and I was there a number of times, it's a tiny vestibule that's only 4 feet deep. It's very, very dark in there, dingy. The more light we can let in through enlarged side lights, the better it would be for the feel of this entire vestibule and the front entrance to the house. And can we go now to the elevations, maybe the front elevations, side elevations, like quickly go around okay, right here. You see in the central part where that Palladian door is, the side windows, they have leaded glass, but it's not drawn here because maybe it was difficult to draw. Therefore, it is our understanding that they will be restored and won't be replaced just with clear glass. Now to the maybe next elevation, on the east facing elevation, that's the elevation that is facing us. The window on the right is not original, so removing it, yes, that's one. Removing it is not a problem at all. And making the window next, well, it seems that the proposed window is actually shorter than the original opening was. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, the one that's on the right side, but not close to the corner. This one, yes, this one. So if it's replaced, and that brings me to the issue of windows in general. I think it should go, it should be obvious to everyone, but whatever windows are chosen, they have to have the same original size. So we don't have to deal with a problem that a certain manufacturer doesn't make stock windows that match the existing sizes of the windows, and then we would end up with windows that are smaller. So I wanted to put that point on the Commission's mind. And the other thing is that the window that is being added on the first floor on the right side, it's not the full length window, because the developer wants to have a kitchen sink there. So for a kitchen, the window needs to be shorter. We were hoping that the window that's right around the corner in the back could be kept, because it's also a part of that kitchen, and that could be made shorter, would be not visible from public way. And it would also, maybe we can move to that facade in the rear. Can we move to the facade? We were just arguing that we really would not like to have an additional window opening on our side. On this facade, which is visible from Englewood, and I walked there and I could see that according to this drawing, almost half of this facade will be totally blank and looking off balance. We are hoping that this window that has always been there, that it can be retained, because it also allows future residents to look into the back where their cars will be parked. And if there's anything going on, whether it's some, fire, there was actually an instance of fire in the house behind, and it was stopped because our neighbors at that time saw that fire. So I'm asking, please, there's no reason to remove that window on the first floor of the rear.
Ava, you got about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk
And
about the
with
driveway?
respect,
6 minutes
okay.
now.
And with respect to siding, I think that we have 5 houses on the street, all have wooden siding, and this gives them an authentic look. And my concern is that putting hardy board, which has been invented for modern houses, is going to make this house look really not authentic and just kind of stick out in a kind of like a synthetic way. When a house is gutted and you end up putting new foam insulation between studs, wood siding will be very durable,
Right.
because there won't be any
You've
moisture.
got to wrap it up, Ava. I'm sorry.
Any moisture house. Anyways, sir, I am very much hoping that we will keep the authentic look of this house, which includes wood siding, which would be also cheaper for the developer.
Okay, thank you, Ava. We appreciate you. All right. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead. Leland, let's see here. Leland, go ahead, and you have about 4 minutes. Is that correct, Sharon?
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Nick. I think I'll be quicker than that because of the lateness of the hour, but I've read that hardy board is also something for the Commission's consideration. Hardy board is somewhat brittle. And so one of the questions is relating to the trim that would get attached to that hardy board around the windows. Online, hardy board trim is relatively flat, completely not synchronous with or not similar to the profile that's currently on the house with the wood trim. And I'm not sure what Ari and his team are thinking about using as material. Maybe it's going to be AZEK, but whether you can create and easily attach any sort of other trim besides hardy board without creating a problem for the brittleness of the hardy board. So that's something for the commission's consideration also beyond just the whether it looks. Because one of the things with synthetic materials is they often don't fool the eye because of the natural irregularity in natural products. That's one of the reasons your eye can tell that it's not natural wood. So I, like people in the commission, haven't seen this with my own eyes. So that's another consideration. And I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other hands up, Nick?
I'm so sorry, I was muted. I'm just double checking to make sure we didn't receive any additional comments electronically. I want to make sure that we got all of them in. I don't have any other public comments, so we can close public comment now for this application, so none others will be accepted. And let's begin to wrap up this conversation, commissioners.
Well. Okay, are any of the commissioners prepared to begin making motions?
And I know there's a lot of elements on this project, Commissioner, so if you'd like, I can, when we make the motion, I can list out the individual elements and then we can make the motion according specific elements if that's helpful.
That would be fantastic, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I've made notes all over the place here.
Okay. And then I'll say, is there any other deliberation about any other element of this project? Okay.
You know, I'm sorry, but Leland's comment made me realize that I'm not clear about the material, like trim material, and surrounding windows or some of the other areas where there's trim.
Or do you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
Is that like the Aztec? Or I know I keep saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, AZEK. It's AZEK. It's an alternative to wood that nobody uses wood around windows because of like obviously like water damage. And the good thing about AZEK is that there are different profiles, so we can find something that matches like what's existing out there. And it's commonly used for situations like this.
What about the delicate dental work on the upper trim areas near the roof line, Ari? Would that be able to be replicated identically? Because the commission will probably ask for that.
Yes. Yes. And if we cannot replicate it, we will keep it and paint it.
Okay.
Actually, I also want to ask, following from Eva's comment, about the windows flanking the double door windows that are under the Palladian half circle that she said are currently leaded glass. Is that true that those are leaded glass, and will that be retained or restored with leaded glass? I mean, that's like an important detail.
I'm not sure what they are, but we are going to restore them in kind. So we'll have like a historic window restoration company come in and basically do whatever is out there in kind.
So if there's a leaded glass windows, they will be.
If the leaded glasses are being built today at this time and age in New England, the window restorer will do that. But if it's something that is a practice that has been phased out,
no,
then we can. Yeah. And I want to add this, like, this is our house. We love it more than anybody else. So I understand the commission has opinions, but we care about our house and the look of our house more than anybody else. So if we are making a recommendation, it's truly what we want the house to look like.
Thank you. I just to point out also that a lot of our recommendations are based on guidelines and sort of there's rules in place that that we adhere to. So if a lot of the things sound sound arbitrary. It's because there's rules as far as materials and things like that. And then, it's not even a matter of opinion. It's a matter of just sort of passing along to you what the guidelines and what the rules are about materials and things like that.
Understood.
Okay. Any other conversations that need to be had, commissioners? Pat, sorry, it's getting late. No?
No,
Okay. All right, so does someone want to make a motion, and then after you make that motion, you can say, I make the motion to approve with provisos the following items, and then I will read the item, and then you make the motion for that specific item. Does that make sense?
yes, it does. And I'm going to use a guideline I created based on notes and previous review. I'd like to start by making a motion for the window relocation on both side facades, approved as submitted. Moving on to the next item that we approved as submitted, that would be the front porch railing approved with, I'm sorry, not the front porch railing, the foundation skim coat approved as submitted. Moving on to the front door and side lights. I'm going to leave that for later. So the approved as submitted would be the window relocation and the landscaping. Moving on to, sorry.
You said skim coat and.
That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm flipping pages. The
and
two.
window relocation. So now do you want to do approved as submitted the landscaping?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does the landscaping include those two lights or
No.
I have that individual.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And I think the foundation skim coat, there were 3 items on the approved as submitted.
Yep.
And also, Sharon, I think the AZAC, covering the brick columns with the AZAC, I think was approved as, we want to approve as submitted.
Okay, so
That's
what we've got is window relocation, porch columns covered with AZEC, landscaping, and foundation skim coat as submitted.
Can I make another recommendation?
Yes.
I believe you're all on board with the garage.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. We were so focused on everything else. Yes, by all means, remove the garage.
Okay.
And the last item, the roof as submitted.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The paving of the rear yard for the additional parking. Is that not approved as submitted?
We didn't really discuss that, but is that pretty much not visible from a public way, Nick?
You will see it on
Correct.
either side of, you'll see it on the left side and the right side from ORKNEY, but it'll be
Mhm.
minimal because there'll be bushes, but we don't consider vegetation when we're reviewing visibility.
Yeah.
Was the question of material where the recommendation is concrete, but asphalt is okay?
No, the recommendation was not concrete. The
Oh, sorry.
recommendation was asphalt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Okay,
just didn't really even discuss it at all, I think.
We didn't discuss it. I'm not convinced that we need to now, but we can if you.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we've got 5 items for review as approved as submitted.
Okay. All right. Okay. What about the fence? the rear fence that goes along the back perimeter?
We didn't discuss that at all. Do we
Just the
want to
wood as
approve
the
it as,
material.
well, it's included under landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so going on to, and I'm sorry, yes, the garage and the fire escape removal, we did approve that as submitted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now the window replacement, I'm sorry, let me go on to the ones with provisos.
Mhm. So the window replacement, Sharon, I had mentioned that just remand those details to me. And
Ah.
I'm happy to work with the applicant to come up with a better window product, if you're okay with it.
I think that would be good. We've discussed Windows report before. We don't need to belabor it again. The regulations are very specific about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. First item, driveway approved with provisos. And I think the proviso is the recommended green space of 2 to 3 feet, if possible.
You need to be more specific, Sharon, so that I can give
Yeah,
guidance to Artie.
Okay, regarding the driveway, asphalt is recommended by the guidelines. And currently, there's the remnants of a fence that divided the driveways. That would be ideally replaced by a 2 to 3 foot green buffer to separate the two driveways.
Perfect.
But can we just specify, does that buffer come all the way to the street, or does that just come
Ah,
when the public comments, there was the discussion about, there was comments about that. Would that come?
I don't think so. I think it came to the end of the residence.
That was my recommendation from staff.
And then is there any paving or anything separating those driveways, or is that just bringing the pavement up to the edge of the driveway?
Sorry, I don't follow.
Yeah.
It was from the public comments. It was recommended to have like a paver, because the driveway next door and this driveway are kind of next to each other, and to have it like a paver in between. We didn't really discuss that, but I just wanted to. So sorry to go back to that, but because we hadn't discussed it, I just don't want to leave it on hanging or whatever.
Wasn't that part of the discussion on the perceived angle of the driveway as it enters the street? But we were told by the developer that that is not the case. It's going to be a straight shot.
Okay.
And if you look at the diagram that I'm looking at now, the green buffer seems to end at the eastern corner of the building.
Right.
I think what Helen is asking is, do we want a paver from here to delineate the two driveways, because they do conjoin down here? I think that was a recommendation from the abutter. I think it's probably best if we just leave.
Yeah.
It's to not overcomplicate this and just say it's approved for paving.
Yeah.
You may want to consider if they want to work to incorporate some sort of delineation into the paved surfaces, that would be acceptable, but not required.
Okay, then let us proceed with that.
Okay.
Okay. So driveway,
And we're okay with the 2 feet, or should we try for the 3 feet buffer zone It looks as
We-
though there's
we
sort of
said-
plantings in the back and just mulch towards the front.
The applicant had asked for some deference because, you know, sometimes when you're doing the development, things happen. So I
Yeah,
think if we gave them a range,
perfect.
Yes,
that would be the
Yeah.
best. And I think the 2 to 3 foot range is acceptable.
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, is that, have I covered all of the ones for the approval with provisos?
The window restoration for the Palladian window and stained glass on the front. We never talked about if that's approved or not.
Could you say that again, Nick? I missed a little of what you said,
Sorry, the window restoration for the Palladian window
right?
in the front. Do we want to approve it with provisos, approve it as submitted? The provisos could be to ensure that the stained glass remains.
The leaded glass.
Yep, so thank you.
Yeah,
Leaded glass.
I would,
I think we need to be, actually state something about the leaded glass to have
Okay.
that in there.
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so
Yep.
it's approved with provisos that the leaded glass be retained?
Mhm. Okay,
All right,
great. I know we talked about landscaping, but the wells, the window wells, I would consider them a separate item. The
you would,
egress
okay.
wells. And it sounds like we're okay with that, approved as submitted.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. On both sides.
Yes, especially since the side that doesn't abut a driveway is completely, well, it's not constrained.
Good.
So,
Terrific. Okay. So far so good. Okay. Let's see. What did we forget? Light fixtures.
well,
Denied.
if we're talking about the light fixtures abutting the sidewalk,
Yeah.
I am not endorsing them, but I would defer to the other commissioners.
I have no strong feelings either way. I do agree with Helen that having them stacked is a little odd. So if there was just one, maybe, but I don't really have any strong feelings about the light fixtures either way.
I just
Okay.
think they're asymmetrical and don't really add that. I'm not sure that they can't think of the word, that they go against any criteria, any guideline, but to me, they just seem a little odd and like they don't really contribute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So-
Yeah,
So denied.
okay. So
and- Yep.
now we move to the ones that need to be revisited.
Okay. Let's start with the chimneys.
Yes, by all means, the chimneys.
I think that we discussed that at the beginning of that
Yeah,
it makes me elements. It's a shall in the guideline, in the criteria, shall be retained, and I think that that's
yeah.
the end of
Okay.
that.
Okay. All
I
right.
must agree with that.
All right. Now, the front door and side lights.
I think we've successfully addressed that. If we can,
Not in the motion, though.
okay, the front door to be replaced with a wood door.
Should we give an order of priority of if a historic door can be sourced,
Yeah,
and if not, then a historically accurate wood replacement door,
Should we add a note to work with staff?
and right to
Yes.
work with exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about the side lights now? I think you had said either leave as is or construct. I think the conversation was to construct it similar to the property that we saw in the examples, which, if I'm not mistaken, was
66 Englewood.
66 Englewood. Thank you, Ari.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that if the sidelights are going to be replaced, they should conform to that example. But we can't require the applicant to replace them, so if he chooses to leave them, that's his
Yeah.
choice.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we want to be specific about maintaining the dimensions between the doors and the side lights that exist today?
Yes.
Yes.
The dimensions have to be the same as the original dimension, and you can tell what the opening of the original dimension was. That's what to me, the replacement dimension would need to be.
There. Okay. Okay, let's move on
Okay.
to the railing above the front porch.
Yeah, now I wrote a lot about that. There was the developer agreed to keep it as is. If we called it a porch or a deck.
But-
And sorry, Nick, I need to find the notes I wrote on this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on
so,
page 7 of it's number 7
so
of the
I think if you give the applicant the parameters in which you're okay with, and then that he can work around them, and if he decides to leave the railings as is, he's welcome to do that.
Right.
But you should say, I would recommend saying something along the lines of making sure the rail is no higher than the bottom of the side lights of the Palladium window, which does not rule out them sinking the floor of the roof, but that's up to you. I mean,
And
Can
what
I
about the
ask a
material?
question? Do you guys prefer to see that metal railing out there, or you see a white wood railing? Like, forget about like the height of it. What would you prefer to see? Like, as you're driving by that property?
I think for appearance sake, the white wood
Okay.
railing would be
So
more
the
in keeping.
compromise here that I would pay for it and I will replace it, but I can't be liable to the ISD.
Nope.
So
It's not about liability, Ari. You can simply not build that as a deck, and that's what ISD would require you to do. That's that's what it is.
okay. So we will just withdraw this from the application. So we will keep it as is.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last, probably the
Would be the
hardy
siding.
board siding and trim.
So to refresh your memory, you were debating whether it should be wood or do a subcommittee to review and consider the hardy board.
I would recommend that we deny approval with provisos. No, I'm sorry, just deny it because we need to revisit that.
Sorry, can you elaborate?
I think there's an awful lot we haven't been able to discuss about the nature of the hardy board or hardy thing, the fact that it is to us a new material. And one of the public comments raised a question about the durability and the whether or not it was considered brittle or could be brittle.
Okay. So you had discussed considering a subcommittee to review this product.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so remand to a subcommittee. Do we want the
Yeah.
subcommittee to be how many commission members?
Well, I think we need at least 2.
Okay.
I'm willing to volunteer. I've did this on that one other thing, so I do have memory of it.
Okay.
And
I'll
whoever
volunteer as a
else is
fresh
willing,
perspective.
Okay.
that would help. Yeah.
And Ed. Okay, great. Helen, any way you want to get on that? Or Kirsten?
I don't want to
We lost
insist if we, if
Kirsten.
Sharon and Ed can cover it capably.
Okay. Okay. It's gonna be hard to come to a consensus if it's two, meaning that if one's yes, one's no.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
good
well, that's
point.
true. Okay, if you, okay, I'm not at all opposed to being involved in it.
Okay,
Okay, good. Also, I'm not going out of town for the next 3 months, so the sooner the better.
good.
Sure.
And then last, but so I guess that the siding, we can loop siding and trim into that, okay? Is
Oh,
that okay?
yes. Yeah,
Because
Okay.
they're related.
Perfect. So I'm just gonna go through the list just to confirm that I have everything written down properly. Oh, sorry, front path, is that approved as submitted?
Yes.
The pavers, yes, I
Yep.
think we.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Sorry, I lumped that in with landscape.
yeah.
Yeah, I
think
did
that should
too.
be individual. Okay, I'm just gonna go through everything just to make sure that I got it. And then someone can make a second motion. So front door and side lights is approved with provisos, meaning replaced with a simple wood door, or whether that be a historic door or an accurate replacement door. Side lights to conform with 66 Englewood, which is approved as with provisos. The driveway is approved with provisos with space of 2 to 3 feet of a green buffer to the edge of the property. Chimney removal is denied. Window relocation on all the side facades and the rear facade is approved as submitted. Window restoration is approved with provisos that the leaded glass be retained. Window replacement is remanded to staff for appropriate window replacements. Garage is approved as submitted for demolition. The light fixtures are denied. The fence is approved. The roof is approved as submitted. The railing above the porch is withdrawn. We're no longer reviewing. The window wells on all sides of the facade are approved as submitted. The landscaping is approved as submitted. The skim coat on the front is approved as submitted. The siding and trim is remanded to a subcommittee consisting of Sharon, Ed, and Helen. The AZAC column covers are approved as submitted. Paving at the rear is approved as submitted. The fire escape removal is approved as submitted. The front path is approved as submitted. Did I miss anything?
When you did it so much more succinctly than I could have.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Okay.
All
Sharon,
in
you want to take a
favor?
roll? Okay.
I
Aye. Kirsten?
I think we lost Kirsten.
Okay. Abstain. Okay. That does it. That's great. Ari, you're all set. I will get this put together to you in a deliverable and send this over to you. And we will schedule that site visit for the hardy board siding. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks for
Right.
everybody's time. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, commissioners, don't go anywhere. We have a couple more things to take care of.
Okay.
Almost done though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ari. Okay. All right, moving on to administrative review items.
Oh, yeah.
Almost there. Appreciate everyone's time tonight.
While you're finding it, I'd like to thank the members of the public for also chiming in. So on a lot of the things, I really take the public comment to heart as far as materials and things like that.
Awesome.
Nicely said, Ed. Yes.
All right, we have one administrative review item.
All right, it's application 25.0995, 8 Chiswick Road. Replace all 8 windows with 6/1 wood, simulated divided lights with exterior and interior applied muntin bars. No low E glass at a 6/1 grid pattern. This is conforming, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
This property has done these before.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so all in favor?
Oh, we need first and second.
I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Getting late.
I'll put forth a motion to approve it.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Sorry, and then public comment.
Oh,
If anyone has any comments on this application, raise your hand. Going once, going twice, none. Okay, so Ed,
Yeah.
you were first. Sharon, you were second.
Yeah.
Okay. And Helen, you agree?
Yes. Aye.
Okay. And Kirsten left.
Yeah.
Abstain. Okay. Good. All right. And staff updates, I don't really have any. It's been a busy week, so
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, there's my building with the 3-car center entrance
I
cars.
thought that was your building. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, okay.
And Nick, I want to thank you again for your guidance and patience.
That's okay.
This was
Yeah, this is a volunteer job, and I'm very thankful that you guys still are on board.
Sharon, you did a fantastic job with a very complex.
Yeah.
you're much too kind.
Oh, I
No,
would have lost half of those items. And, yeah.
Well, I appreciate everyone's support. I knew it was going to be a job, but we've had a lot of easy meetings, so it's,
Yeah. I have my condo's annual meeting tonight after this at 8
Oh, my
o'clock. I'm glad
goodness.
it's not earlier than 8 or I would be
Oh,
late for
no. You still have time for a nap.
it.
God.
Yeah.
At least
Okay.
a cup of coffee.
We
Well,
did.
Yeah.
All right. I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll
I'm
make
making
the
a
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Cool. All right.
All
I
right.
Okay.
Happy meetings, Helen.
Thank you, everybody.
thank you all so much.
Good
All right.
night.
Appreciate you. Bye.